Hello everyone and welcome to episode 4 of Disney WTF, where we talk about what's the fuss about Disney. I'm Richie and I'm here with my partner in good deeds, Lori, and she's a Disney lover, I'm a Disney hater, but somehow we figured out a way to make this relationship work.
Yeah.
Alright, we're in here.
Okay, so today we're going to start off the show with a few news headlines, because we always want to keep up to date on what's going on.
New segment.
Yes. So, top news, I think the parade is going to change times at Magic Kingdom. So
Nice.
Now the Festival of Fantasy Parade is going to be at 2 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Which is kind of crazy because as long as I remember going to Magic Kingdom, the parade, what time is it? 3 o'clock.
Okay, nice. So it's going an hour earlier to 2 o'clock.
It's going an hour earlier to 2 o'clock.
Nice. Okay.
And the next two little bits of news are about the new world of Avatar, which if you've already been to see it, we're very jealous. Well,
Yes.
I'm very jealous. I would love to go. Take me with you. So there's actually going to be a live broadcast of the dedication ceremony, which
Cool.
is tomorrow, Wednesday, May 24th at 9:25 a.m. if you're on the East Coast. So set your watches and watch it. I'll be at work, so won't be able to watch it, but I'm sure I'll catch it later. And then the last little bit of news that I wanted to share was that the Flight of Passage ride in the new Land of Avatar is going to have special accommodations for patients people who are disabled or who are bound to a wheelchair, so they're not going to be left out of all the fun. So that's
Cool.
pretty awesome.
Accessibility.
Yeah, leave it to Disney to think of everybody. So
Nice. All right.
okay.
So what are we talking about today?
So today, I'm really, really excited about the topic.
The
Carousel of Progress.
Okay.
So after the It's a Small World debacle where I brought it up to Richie and he didn't know what it was, I wanted to actually have him watch a video of the show.
But I remembered it this time because we went on it before and she thought I was going to forget it. But for some reason, this carousel made a, what is it, Carousel of Progress?
Carousel of Progress.
The Carousel of Progress probably left something with me that made me really remember the ride. So I surprised her by remembering.
I was really, really surprised.
Yeah.
Okay, first, just a couple of facts. So remember on It's a Small World when we talked about it was a part of a World's Fair that they created the ride for?
Yeah.
Carousel of Progress was created for the same event.
Okay, cool.
So it's also been around for many, many years, since 1964 to be exact. And according to family and friends of Walt, it was one of his favorite attractions.
Cool, okay. So was it made like at the same time or like in terms of like simultaneously, or did he do one and then the other?
Well, they were released the same year, so
Gotcha.
one can assume that they were being developed at the same time,
Yeah,
which is pretty awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, okay. So what else?
Although now that we're talking about it, it's interesting because It's a Small World is about the world, but Carousel of Progress is really supposed to be about the typical, and I'm doing air quotes here, American family.
Okay, yeah, that's true. It is. That is interesting.
Yeah.
He's like, I kind of care about us here, but I also care about the world.
It's about all things, but mostly America.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
So, yes. What are your first impressions when you watch it? Like some of the things that you can remember.
Well, I just remember it being like a history, like just a timeline of the history of what's going on and like what used to go on then, and it gave you like a weird, like interesting insight. I was like, if you were actually there in the beginning of the time that he was recording. What was the time period? The first one?
The first one was in the 1900s, so it was the turn of the century.
Okay, so yeah, that was one of the first times I felt like I was actually at the turn of the century.
Okay, why do you feel that way?
Because I was like in a play. Like it felt like I was in a play.
Okay. Well, so yeah, it does go through certain time periods. So it's the turn of the century, and then the 20s, then the 40s, and then modern America. So those are the segments.
Okay, cool. I hope we're not ruining this for anyone that like hasn't been on it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry if that's the case.
Is that like a thing? Is that like a thing that like is that like frowned upon if you ruin rides for people?
Well, I certainly don't like rides ruined for me. So I haven't actually seen the new Happily Ever After fireworks show yet because
Yes.
I want to be surprised.
Yes.
And that will go with anything because nowadays with YouTube, things are up in an instant.
It's all over Instagram too. Like you can see all the new videos of the new fireworks show on Instagram.
But considering this ride is, over 50 years old, I hope that we're not ruining it for anybody.
Okay. Gotcha.
Anywho, so the ride did actually start in Disneyland.
Okay.
And then it was brought over to Magic Kingdom in 1975.
When you say brought over, did they move all the stuff or did they just make two?
That I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you for asking me a question that I'll have to research later.
Okay.
I don't know that for sure. But what I do know is that the version that was in Disneyland, it has been refurbished since so the modern version we see today isn't the version that was when it was opened in 1964.
Okay.
Yeah. So one thing that I thought was interesting that they did in the older version was the dog that we see in every scene. Today he's called Rover, but in every scene the dog would change names, which would imply that the dog from the previous scene was no longer with us. That was in the older version.
Doesn't it?
It makes sense, but doesn't that kind of weird you out?
No, isn't it different people or it's the same
No,
people?
it's the same family
Oh, it's the same family, just going through the periods.
with a different dog every time.
But maybe the lifespan back then of dogs were a lot shorter than they are now because of like modern medicine and stuff.
Well, you think about a dog nowadays, like how long is a dog going to live for?
Between like 10 and 20 human years.
Okay, well that's about the time span in between each scene nowadays, like in the current version.
Yeah, but maybe they just kept that from back then. That's just the way it was. Like every couple of years, every 10-year period, you got new dogs.
But doesn't that? But anywho, so I'm pretty sure that they must have thought about this long and hard because in the version today, it is the same dog through the whole ride. It's always Rover.
Oh, so that changed.
Yes.
Okay.
So something must have happened where somebody brought up like, do we really want to broach this subject? This dog is no longer with us in this scene.
Or it was like a cost thing where there was like, maybe we shouldn't spend money on new dogs when it's equally effective.
It was just the name change. So this is Spot. This is Rover.
So wait, in the new version, the name of the dog is the same name?
Mm-hmm. Which if you would have watched it before we recorded, you would have known that. But anyways.
That's a small detail.
But it's an interesting detail.
I would not have picked up on.
Yeah, though. Yeah. I don't know. I'm glad that it's always Rover.
Yeah.
Because I listened to the audio version of the older Carousel of Progress, and I don't know, having a different dog name every time kind of freaks me out.
Okay, well, I wonder if anyone else has been as equally freaked out about that as Lori has, but
I like the current version.
Let us know in the comments of any medium that we're on.
Okay.
We'd like to hear it.
So another thing that I wanted to bring up about Carousel of Progress, each time period, there's a major event that's going on, like a bad event in history that goes on that's not even brought up.
Okay.
So it makes me think they advertise this as the typical American family, but really, if you think back about it, it's probably like a well-off typical American family.
Yeah.
Not concerned about World War I.
Yeah.
Not concerned about the Great Depression or World War II.
Okay.
Which, I mean, they're pretty heavy topics, hard to take care of in a 20-minute show, of course.
But I feel like those things don't belong in Disney.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe that's kind of what where they were going with that, like why bring sadness?
Yeah. Well, what I did want to say was that to any Disney haters who would bring up maybe something like that in a critique of the show, that, they're totally leaving out these important points of history. Like, it's really more about to showcase the technology of the era.
Yeah. Which
I think is pretty cool to know, like, this is the time period in which we had Snap-on electric lights.
Yeah.
Electric lights?
Okay. Well, for the record, I'm not a Disney hater. She wrote the intro. I just don't get it. So that's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
I don't hate Disney.
Well, we're just trying to explain what's the fuss to you.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's correct. Cool.
Let's see. So another thing that I wanted to bring up was my favorite scene, the Christmas scene, Act 4.
Okay.
Where they're all sitting around and everybody has presents in their laps. There's a turkey in the oven.
I remember that.
Yeah. What do you remember most about it? Not much, probably.
I don't remember much about it.
That's why we should have watched it before. So it would be fresh.
I asked her, I was like, hey, like, do I need to know specific little details, or do I just need to know the like overall scheme of things?
Well,
she said, no.
You seemed like you knew enough. You said, well, anywho, doesn't matter. So the crazy thing about this scene, I've had maybe a love-hate relationship as the years have gone on. Like, as I've gotten older and as I've gotten more nostalgic of the time period that it's trying to showcase, which is the year 2000 as seen in 1993.
Oh, so they were predicting the future?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. So there was 1993 was when this refurbishment was made, and they were doing the year 2000 in the scene. That's what they're depicting.
Okay, I should have watched it. I'm going to watch it again. We're going to talk about this again later.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
All right. So I was thinking, so some of the things that they mentioned that are, outdated, like laser discs and, well, mostly laser discs and car phones, things that have been modernized since then. Like, we don't really have laser discs anymore, although I do remember flipping the big disc back in the day. But then there are other things that they have that they really nailed that are still super relevant today.
Yeah.
So
I remember them having virtual reality on, like VR.
Yes, exactly.
I was like, whoa,
yes.
That's real now.
And so it was literally the VR that we have where we put on our face today, it's in that scene.
Yeah.
They mentioned HD TV and then like a pseudo Alexa.
Yes, they did have like an Alexa version of something on there where they spoke to something and it had an action, like a robot type of thing.
Yes. So setting the oven to 900 degrees.
Yeah, that's legit. That's like legitimate. I mean, they might have been a little early in predicting that because obviously that technology, like we're in 2017 now, so that technology came later than they expected. But I think that pretty spot on. I mean, most of the things that we're doing now has all been like someone imagined at some point. And then now it's just, the technology catches up with making the reality of it. So, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I think about it too, like some of the things, all the things that we've mentioned, it kind of has gone through a version until the version that we have today of it, like the HD TV and all that. But I don't know, it's weird because at some point, maybe in 2000, let's say 2010, 2009, I would watch it and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so dated. But I hope they don't take it out because it's so dated. I hope they just redo it. But now I hope they don't change it at all.
Yeah.
Because it's just such a nice thing to look at and see how far we've come.
But I feel like, I guess you'd have to change it because I was just going to say, why don't you just add to it? But then there's only like enough space you can add to that ride, I guess. But yeah, I guess, but luckily it's available on, YouTube now and you can find all the crazy like histories and old videos. Like you can probably find a video of that ride from like 1993, or vice versa. I mean, it's not gonna look the greatest, but it's still out there. So I think I would be a fan of it changing more. Like I would love to see an update now. Like what is it, almost over 20 years from the last time that it was
like
created.
25
like
years,
I think they should get together like a group of people right now. I'll help.
Me
and
too.
We can do add a stage or maybe even replace a stage because the turn of the century was just so long ago that, and there's been so many crazy changes that let's just revamp the whole thing. That's too far. I'm sorry. That's too far. But anyway.
Do you have a favorite scene that you remember?
I think at the end of the day, I think I liked the modern one.
Yeah.
Like I like to see that how they tried to depict, what was gonna come, because that's usually what I'm into, like what's coming next in the future and technology. So that was probably the one that stuck out to me the most, I think.
Do you think it's because of your age? Because it's more nostalgic for you because you remember, wow, laser discs.
Maybe.
And your, car
definitely.
phones.
It's definitely interesting, but it's also the thing too that I think it's fascinating that at some point people didn't have refrigerators or a way to keep their food cold. But then it's also, to me, it seems like such like a small, like insignificant thing being where we're at now that I'm more concerned about the future and the technology of what's going to come, from then. So.
Do you remember, well, you probably don't, So part of one of the scenes, there was a refrigerator, and they called it an ice box because literally what kept everything cold was a block of ice.
Okay.
It was a huge block of ice.
I remember that in the refrigerator. I do remember that.
Did you know that it was called an ice box before?
No.
Do you know why it's called an ice box now?
Yes. I get it now.
Actually, the fridge from the 1940s, my grandmother still has a working fridge that looks exactly like
Really?
that. Yes.
That's crazy.
It houses all the Dr. Pepper.
Wow.
I don't know why she keeps all the Dr. Pepper in there.
It's so weird. That's funny.
It's a special spot for it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nice.
Do you have final thoughts on it?
No, I think the final thought I think I would have on it would be, I think we should start talking. We should get started to talk about what's going to be next. Like, what's the next scene going to be in there? And
but I don't want them to take out the current scenes.
Maybe just do the part 2. Like, go next door for continuation or something.
I think I'm gonna ask my mom what's her
make
favorite
make it
scene.
an elevator. Like, you have to go up the ride instead of in a circle. Yeah. You're welcome, Disney.
And then make it Tower of Terror style.
Yeah, and then you just
you drop one floor.
Yeah, that would be funny. Cool.
But I do want to ask what my mom's favorite scene and maybe my dad's favorite scene is, because I'm thinking maybe ours is the last, because like that's nostalgic for us because we actually saw it and we can be like, oh my gosh, car phones.
Yeah. Well, we need to have your dad on here anyway, so that'll be a good time to ask him.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a note of that.
Awesome. Well,
that's all I got. So thank you everyone for listening, and we hope you have a very, very magical day.